Hey, it's John at Tinderbox Arts. Doing some maintenance on my 2010 Triumph Bonneville, and one of the last things I'm doing is to change the fuel filter inside the fuel tank. Now, I've done this before. There's another video. Maybe we'll have more detail than this one. But what I'm particularly interested in this time is how some of the things that I installed last time, which is quite a number of years ago, have held up. In particular, I'm not really worried about the fuel filter itself. I'm sure that's honestly fine. I mean, it's got plenty of capacity. It's a big filter. What I am somewhat concerned or curious about, I guess is a better word, is the fuel hose itself. Inside the tank, the fuel filter is attached to the pump and that whole assembly with some fuel hose, which needs to be the type that can be submerged in fuel the whole time. The last time I did this, I purchased the official Triumph parts. What can happen is if you use a fuel hose that is not designed to be submerged in fuel all the time, it will become hardened and brittle, and actually that can happen to any type of fuel hose over enough time. So this time, instead of getting the official Triumph part, I purchased, this is made by Dayco, an in-tank fuel hose. It's 5/16 internal. And we're going to take a hard look at that rubber hose that's already in there because I want to see how it holds up. Just to show you the connections, there's an electrical connection right here for the fuel pump. This is where the fuel comes in, and this is just a relief hose. So it's pretty simple. This whole assembly here comes out as a unit, and there's a whole bunch of bolts there we got to undo. There's a gasket underneath, which I could not source this time, so I'm going to try to reuse the old one, which may be a mistake, but we're going to give it a try anyway. And these should not be that tight. I say that, and that one's fairly tight. There. It's just a little stuck. Now to get this assembly out, you pull it up, you kind of tilt it out a little bit and going forward at the same time. It is fiddly, and I remember last time I had to fiddle with it for a few minutes, but it will eventually come out. Just imagine that you got to get all those little pieces to slide out the right way. And there's a little clamp right here. I got to avoid that. There we go. I'm trying to bring the gasket with me so I don't tear that. There's that hose. All right. That's out. Get some of that fuel off, and I'll bring it over to my other rag. I always find it entertaining to look inside to see what's there. It's very clean. There's no dirt at all, but there's one little thing there. It's a bug. It looks like about half of a bee, so I'm going to try to get that out, but otherwise it looks very good. All right, this gasket is crap, so I will not be reusing that. I definitely have to go get a new one. Here's what I want to check out, though. So the way this thing works is there's a pickup right here, and there's like a Brillo pad at the end of that, and then there's another pad internally. I will take that off and check it. That's like the first defense against dirt. And there's a pump right here, of course. Then here's the fuel filter that we can replace, and it's fairly big, so you know it's going to hold a lot before it gets clogged up. What I was concerned about was these rubber connectors here, here, and here. And like I said, last time I did replace those with official Triumph parts, and I have to say these are fine. I don't see any problem. They definitely feel flexible. I don't have any issues with those, so I really don't need to replace those. And these clamps easily come off, so to replace this filter, it's just a matter of taking these clamps off, sliding in a new one, and you're done. However, having said all that, there is something I am concerned about, which is this hose right here. And that one is definitely disintegrating. I can even get little pieces of, yeah, this is not good. So that is stuff that could get into the fuel, and I want to replace that for sure. Now, I'm not sure if what I bought is the right size. I think it is not, but I will check. Because what we have to do here is worry about the outside diameter, which fits into this little receiver right here. This is rubber, so it will stretch a little bit. So I got to see if what I bought will fit. This is a molded hose. Does it have to be? Probably not. I will check to see if it's something that's easily available from Triumph, but if it's not, I'll just get a standard hose. There is a kind of quite a bend right there I got to be careful about. So I got to look at that. But this hose I'm not happy with. It's definitely disintegrating by being left in that fuel all the time. All right, well, I'm pretty much screwed. So that hose that I'm worried about is sold as part of that baffle. The baffle is a T2401270. Sells for $33 and change. So, and with that, you'll get the piece of plastic that hose goes into and the hose itself. I got to look at that. My other problem, though, is that seal for the plate seal, they call it, which is a T2401151. And I have the same problem I had before, which was it's not really available easily. It's $28, which is also overpriced, but I got to try to find where I can buy it. Anyway, we can at least finish putting this fuel filter on. And then I just got to look. Maybe I will find a third-party hose, a generic hose, in other words, rather than buying that Triumph part. Right, so the fuel filter itself, the direction is this way, and I just got to remove these clamps, get them out of the way. And now we can just slide this off. Once I get it loose here. Alright, I'm going to lose some fuel in the process, that's alright. It's a little bit of a tight fit. Alright, so that's the old one. Here's the new one. I always double check. Now this is a Molly KL145. Alright, and actually, yeah, it looks the same. Take this little plastic piece off here. Make sure my direction is going this way. And we'll get that fitted back in there. Alright, so that's good. Now I just get my clamps back on. And that's good and tight. So that's all that is. Now, this other piece here, let me just try to turn this where you can see it. So it's kind of a weird looking thing. There's a hose clamp here we'll take off, and then this weird assembly here, I'll show you what it looks like inside. And that's where this hose that I'm worried about fits in. It's just not, it's really not great. So I want to see if I can get a new hose, but I got to get this off to get this clean. So this hose clamp comes off easily enough. The hose itself is already disconnected because it's not fitting in here like it should. It should go in like that, but it just pops out very easily. And then I'm just going to loosen that rubber. Alright, and there we go. So it's a weird arrangement. It's just this weird rubbery boot. I mean, it's flexible, right? And it's got like, I mean, it looks like a Brillo pad. It's stainless steel, obviously. So that's that. And then at the end here is this, you know, screen, I'll call it. And this, I don't know if I want to get a close-up of this. You see all that dirt right there? That's collected on the intake. So we're just going to take a brush and lightly brush that off. That's all we really need to do. So I have this plastic brush here. You could use a toothbrush or something. Some of this is just a stain, but I want to make sure I get the actual dirt out. That looks pretty good. There's some, it's just a stain. It's not actually, there's not actually anything there. It's just a stain. But the physical particles I've gotten off. Now to get this hose off that I'm worried about, it's just the same clamp, same style as the other one. So I'll just take that off. And then that should just pop right off, and it does. So this is, yeah, that's disintegrated. That's not good. All right, I think I've come up with a solution. This hose you're looking at here is the original. Now it's molded. Honestly, it's not fuel line. It looks like standard vacuum line that was molded. And actually, this inner diameter is the wrong one on that side. They just force it on there. This side, the inner diameter doesn't matter. But it doesn't belong in the gas tank. This is not the right type of hose they used originally, quite honestly. And now it's disintegrating, so I don't want to put it back. So what I found was, this is the only thing I could find for a replacement. This is a vinyl tubing known as Tygon, and it is rated for fuel use among many other things, and ethanol fuel is not going to be a problem. So this is appropriate. Is it meant for submerged operation? Not really, but it's certainly an improvement over what was there originally, and I can make this work. Now, it's not a molded hose, right? It's just a straight hose. Is that going to be a problem, especially on that one section here where there's an elbow? Well, I don't think it is going to be a problem. Let me show you. Now let's remember what we're doing here. This is a pressure regulator, so this hose is not under pressure. It's excess fuel that is being dumped back into the tank. And presumably the reason they put this hose here is so that it comes out the pressure regulator, goes back into this filter, and probably washes that filter out a little bit. And that's probably the intent. Even if I left this hose off totally, the engine would still run. In any case, this Tygon hose is flexible enough to fit over that fitting, and I really don't see a problem leaving it just like this. And I'm not going to put it real tight like that because that could kink later, but I'll just leave a little extra like that, and it can fit. If I put it like this, it can fit like this when I put it in the tank, and then once I get it in the tank, this will flop over a little bit, but that's fine. It doesn't get in the way of anything. So I think this will not be an issue. Now the other end is supposed to fit, if you recall, in here, and the outer diameter of this hose, I don't know if I can do this one-handed, fits in there without a problem. In fact, maybe it's just a little bit tighter fit than it was before, which is good. So I will just cut this hose to length now. Let me put this down. I'll cut this hose to length now, so I'll kind of wrap it something like that, get it where I'm happy, cut it to length, and then just insert it into that rubber boot in the bottom, and we're done. So this part, I think I have a good solution. So you can find this Tygon tubing online. I found it, if you're in America, at Napa Auto Parts. All right, two last things here. I have the new gasket. Took me about a week to get. It was $42 delivered, which is crazy. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is related to a previous video I did. And one viewer commented that he thought this assembly right here was backwards. Well, I'm 100% sure that this is the way the factory did it. When I first opened my bike up the first time, this is the way it was. And I've looked at other videos when they open theirs up, and again, this is the way it was. This viewer contends that this rubber boot should be turned 90 degrees, or I'm sorry, 180 degrees, so that the fuel can enter here. Now, if I look at the tank, you see this little area right here. That's where this sits. So when I insert that in there, it's sitting in this area here. And the viewer's contention was that if I turn this around, I'll have more fuel available right to the very end. Maybe it would buy you a little more fuel, I don't know. But for me, it's just not an issue. So I'm going to stick with the factory way. So I'll put this gasket on over all this. We'll slip this back in, and I'll just carefully tighten all those. Not too tight, but tight enough. And then I'll be back in business.